Paris, 1757. A man is dragged into the streets, chained to a wooden sled. The crowd braces for an execution, but this will not be quick, and it will not be merciful. Red-hot pincers, boiling oil, molten lead, and finally, 4 horses pulling his body apart. This is not myth. This is the last time France ever dared to carry out such a punishment. His name was Robert-François Damiens. He was no general, no nobleman, no dangerous conspirator. He was a servant. Yet his desperate act, a shallow knife wound against King Louis XV, unleashed one of the most gruesome spectacles of state power in European history. Today, we uncover how an ordinary man's crime led to an extraordinary punishment. A death so shocking, it scarred Paris forever. 18th century France was built on divine right. The king's body was not just human, it was sacred. To harm him was to harm the entire kingdom, the natural order, even God himself. But Louis XV was unpopular. Corruption, wars, and crushing taxes fueled resentment. Whispers of unrest haunted the court, and when Damiens, a disgruntled servant, pressed his knife into the king's side, barely scratching him, it was enough to shake the monarchy. The king lived. The wound was shallow, but the message was deadly. No one was safe, not even Louis. France's rulers decided that one man's punishment would have to terrify millions. Damiens was quickly arrested and tortured in prison for information. But he had no co-conspirators. He was no mastermind. Just one man, angry and unstable. That didn't matter. The Parlement of Paris announced the punishment. He would suffer the full ritual of public quartering, the traditional penalty for regicide. A sentence designed not only to kill him, but to erase him. March 28, 1757. The Place de Grève filled with thousands, crowds pressed shoulder to shoulder, nobles peering from balconies, commoners straining for a glimpse. Soldiers lined the square. A scaffold stood ready in the center, black against the sky. Damiens, broken from days of torture, was dragged in on a wooden sled, his body pale, his face hollow. The people gasped, but they had no idea how far this would go. First came the pincers. Executioners heated iron claws in blazing braziers until they glowed red. Then, one by one, they clamped them into Damiens' flesh, chest, arms, thighs, calves, ripping out chunks of skin. His screams cut through the square. Blood streamed onto the scaffold, but this was only the beginning. Into the raw wounds they poured molten lead, burning oil, boiling resin, and melted wax. The liquid fire hissed as it touched his torn body. Witnesses covered their mouths. Some fainted. Damiens convulsed, but he still lived, and worse was yet to come. Finally, 4 horses were led forward, each tied to one of his limbs. The signal was given. The whips cracked. The horses lunged forward. Damiens' body strained, bones creaking, tendons snapping, but he held together. The crowd gasped. The executioners had miscalculated. So they took knives and cut into his joints, hacking at muscle, slicing at sinew, until, piece by piece, the limbs began to tear free. The agony was beyond imagination. Damiens shrieked, his voice breaking into raw sobs. At last, with horrific force, the body gave way. His arms and legs were torn from his torso. The square erupted into chaos, horror, disbelief, stunned silence. It was over. Or so they thought. The remains were gathered and burned on the scaffold. Ashes scattered into the wind, leaving nothing behind. His family was banished, his home demolished. The monarchy wanted no trace of Damiens left in this world. His body was destroyed, his name was cursed, his existence was erased. The execution had been designed as theater, a spectacle of fear, and in that it succeeded. For decades afterward, Parisians remembered the screams, the smell, the horror. The monarchy thought it had secured its authority with fire and steel. But in truth, it had revealed something else: its cruelty. When the revolution came just 30 years later, Damiens' death was remembered as proof of the monarchy's inhumanity. The punishment meant to silence rebellion had instead planted its seeds. What does this story tell us? That power often chooses fear when it cannot win loyalty. Damiens was not a mastermind assassin. He was one man, acting alone. Yet the state destroyed him in the most brutal way imaginable, not because of what he did, but because of what he symbolized. To the monarchy, his knife was not a blade of steel, but a spark of revolution, and so they crushed him to make an example. But examples cut both ways. His death became a symbol of cruelty, a glimpse of tyranny unmasked. And in the long shadow of that scaffold, the world began to change. The forgotten fate of Damiens the assassin is one of history's darkest punishments, a reminder of how far rulers once went to protect their power. If this story shocked you, imagine what happened to the governor who was boiled alive in molten silver by Genghis Khan. That story is just as gruesome, and it's waiting for you. If you found this journey into the shadows of history compelling, don't forget to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more hidden stories from the past. Until next time, stay curious, stay questioning, and remember, history is written not only in ink, but in blood.